The morning frost clung to the windows of the towering estate like forgotten tears. Emma Chen stood before the wrought iron gates, her breath forming small clouds in the December air. The mansion loomed before her, all sharp angles and pristine glass, a monument to wealth she had never known. Her worn leather boots crunched against the gravel as she approached the front door, each step echoing her thundering heartbeat. She had never been to this part of the city. The manicured hedges, the silence that money could bite, was a world away from her cramped apartment. And the elementary school where she taught finger painting to 5-year-olds. But when her sister called that morning, voice cracking with fever and desperation, Emma had said yes, without hesitation. One day, just one day, as a substitute nanny. How hard could it be? The door opened before she could knock. He stood there, like a sentinel, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing shadows like a second skin. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his charcoal sweater stretched across a frame that spoke of careful control. But his eyes were storm clouds, gray and unreadable, studying her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You're not Sarah," he said, his voice carrying the weight of someone who rarely had to repeat himself. Emma's throat tightened. "I'm her sister, Emma Chen. Sarah has the flu, and I." A small figure darted between his legs. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, with dark curls that caught the light and eyes the color of warm honey. She stopped directly in front of Emma, her head tilted with the fearless curiosity of childhood. "You look like her," the child whispered, wonder threading through her voice. Emma blinked. "Like who, sweetheart?" "The Sunshine Lady. The one who sang to me when the world was all dark." The man's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His fingers flexed against the doorframe, knuckles white with tension. Emma couldn't understand. "Luna," he said quietly, his voice carrying a warning wrapped in silk. "Let's go inside." Emma crouched to the child's level, instinctively matching her height. "Hi, Luna. I'm Emma. I'm here to keep you company today, while your daddy works." The little girl's face lit up like sunrise, breaking through storm clouds. "Can you stay, please?" "Daddy, can she stay?" The man Luna's father studied Emma with those penetrating eyes. Something flickered across his features, too quick to catch. Recognition, confusion, fear. "We'll see," he said finally, stepping aside. "I'm Marcus Blackwood. Come in." The interior of the house was a study in elegant emptiness. Marble floors reflected the winter light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Every surface was pristine, every angle deliberate. Beautiful, but cold. Like a museum where laughter had been carefully catalogued and stored away, Luna skipped ahead, her small feet making the first sounds of life the house had heard in what felt like years. Emma followed, her eyes drinking in the space while her heart whispered a single, unsettling truth. This place was hungry for warmth. "Daddy works in his tower," Luna announced, pointing toward a spiral staircase that curved up into shadows. "But sometimes he watches from the windows. He likes to make sure I'm safe." Marcus said nothing, but Emma felt his gaze like a physical weight. She turned to find him studying her again, his expression unreadable. "I'll be in my office," he said, each word measured and careful. "Luna knows her routines. Lunch at noon, quiet time at 1. If you need anything." He paused, his eyes lingering on her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle he couldn't quite see. "If you need anything, ask Mrs. Patterson. She's the housekeeper." Emma nodded, her throat suddenly dry. "Of course, thank you." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Emma, yes, thank you for coming, Luna. She doesn't trust easily." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning Emma couldn't grasp. Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing up the stairs like a retreating storm. Emma turned back to Luna, who was watching her with those honey-colored eyes, bright with hope. "So," Emma said, forcing lightness into her voice, "what do you like to do for fun?" Luna's smile was sunshine, breaking through clouds. "Everything. I like everything when someone nice is here." The words hit Emma like a physical blow. She knelt again, studying the little girl's face, the careful way she held her shoulders, the slight tremor in her hands, the way her eyes darted toward the empty spaces in the house, like she was always listening for something that never came. This child knew loneliness, the kind that lived in your bones and whispered that you were too much trouble, too loud, too needy for the people who were supposed to love you. Emma had worn that same expression once, years ago, when her own world had shifted and left her standing alone in the wreckage. "Well then," Emma said, her voice soft with understanding, "let's do everything." And for the first time since she'd walked into this marble mausoleum, Emma heard what she'd been listening for. The sound of a little girl's laughter, bright and untamed, filling the empty spaces with light. High above in his office, Marcus Blackwood stood at the window, watching. His hands were pressed flat against the glass, his breath fogging the surface as he stared down at the woman, who had walked into his carefully controlled world and tilted it off its axis. He knew that laugh, he knew that voice, he knew the way she moved, gentle and sure, like someone who understood the weight of other people's broken pieces. His hand moved to the locked drawer of his desk, where a small flash drive waited in the darkness. On it was a video, shaky, poorly lit, recorded 2 years ago in an elementary school auditorium. A video of a young teacher with kind eyes and a voice like honey, kneeling beside a grieving child who had lost her mother and forgotten how to smile. The teacher's name had been Miss Chen. She had been a student intern, therefore only a few weeks before moving on to her permanent position. She had left behind a small note tucked into Luna's backpack, a few words about bravery and love that never dies. Signed simply, "Your Sunshine Teacher." Marcus had kept that note. He had watched that video countless times, studying the woman who had given his daughter the first moment of peace she'd had since her mother's death. He had searched for her, hired investigators, followed every lead. But Emma Chen had vanished into the city like morning mist, leaving only the memory of her kindness and the echo of Luna's laughter. And now she was here, in his house, with his daughter. As if the universe had finally decided to show mercy, he pressed his forehead against the cold glass, his breath coming in sharp bursts. She didn't know. She had no idea who he was, who Luna was, what she had done for them in that moment of desperate need. The question was, what did he do now? How did he tell her that she wasn't just a temporary nanny, but the woman who had haunted his dreams and given his daughter back her smile? How did he explain that he had been waiting for her to come back into their lives, even when he thought it was impossible? The sound of Luna's laughter drifted up from the garden below, followed by Emma's voice, warm and encouraging. Marcus closed his eyes, allowing himself one moment of pure, desperate hope. Maybe this time, she wouldn't disappear. Maybe this time, he would find the courage to tell her the truth. Maybe this time, his daughter wouldn't have to say goodbye to her Sunshine Teacher. The afternoon sun slanted through the garden windows, casting everything in gold. Emma sat cross-legged on the Persian rug, watching Luna arrange a tea party for her collection of stuffed animals. Each creature had been carefully positioned, their button eyes turned toward the miniature china cups Luna had inherited from her grandmother. "Mr. Patches likes his tea with extra sugar," Luna explained seriously, adjusting the purple elephant's position. "And Miss Buttercup only drinks chamomile because regular tea makes her spots itch." Emma bit back a smile. "That's very thoughtful." Of you, what about Prince Whiskers? Luna's face scrunched in concentration as she considered the tabby cat. He's fancy. He likes his pinky up, like this. She demonstrated with her own tiny finger, extended. Very distinguished, Emma agreed. I can see he has excellent manners. They spent the next hour lost in imagination, their voices weaving stories. That transformed the pristine living room into a magical kingdom. Luna's laughter came easier now, bubbling up from some deep place that had been locked away for far too long. It was during a particularly animated discussion about whether unicorns preferred jasmine or peppermint tea that Emma noticed the photograph it sat on the mantelpiece, partially hidden behind a vase of white orchids. A woman with Luna's honey-colored eyes and gentle smile, her arms wrapped around a toddler version of Luna. Both of them were laughing, their faces tilted toward the sun. Emma's breath caught. The woman was beautiful not in the sharp, calculated way of magazine models, but in the effortless manner of someone who radiated warmth. Her love for her daughter was evident in every line of her face, every protective curve of her embrace. That's my mama, Luna said quietly, following Emma's gaze. She lives in the stars now. Emma's heart clenched. She set down her pretend teacup and moved closer to Luna, who had gone very still. She's beautiful, Emma said softly. She looks like she gave the very best hugs. Luna nodded, her eyes filling with tears that she tried to blink away. She smelled like vanilla and sunshine, and she sang me songs when the thunder came. Emma reached out slowly, carefully, and brushed a tear from Luna's cheek. What was her favorite song? You are my sunshine, Luna whispered, but I can't remember how it goes anymore. And that makes me sad, because what if I forget her voice too? Emma's throat tightened with emotion. She had stood in this exact place, once 6 months old, staring at a photo of her own mother, terrified that the memories would fade until nothing remained but empty spaces and the ache of loss. Can I tell you a secret? Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. Luna nodded. I lost my mama too, and I was so scared that I would forget her voice, her laugh, all the little things that made her special. But then I realized something important. What? Emma smiled, tears shining in her own eyes. She didn't just live in my memories. She lived in all the things she taught me. Every time I was kind to someone who was sad, every time I sang a lullaby, every time I made someone laugh, she was there. Love doesn't disappear when someone goes to the stars. It just changes shape. Luna studied her face with those wise, too-old eyes. Do you think my mama is still with me? I think she's in your kindness. In the way you take care of your stuffed animals, in your beautiful smile, in the way you make tea parties for everyone so no one feels left out. Emma touched Luna's hand gently. And I think she's in your voice when you sing. Maybe you don't remember exactly how she sang it, but you remember how it felt. And that's the most important part. Luna was quiet for a long moment, processing this. Then, so softly, Emma almost missed it. She began to hum. The melody was tentative at first, uncertain. But, as Emma recognized the tune and began to hum along, Luna's voice grew stronger. Soon, they were both singing, their voices blending in the golden afternoon light. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. From the doorway, Marcus Blackwood stood frozen, his hand gripping the frame so tightly his knuckles had gone white. The song that had once filled his home with warmth, the song that had died with his wife, was alive again. And it was Emma's voice weaving through Luna's, creating something new and beautiful from the broken pieces of their grief. He had come downstairs to check on them, to maintain the careful distance he had cultivated over the past 2 years. But this was beyond anything he had dared to hope for. Emma wasn't just watching Luna. She was seeing her, understanding her, giving her permission to remember and grieve and heal all at once. Marcus pressed his eyes shut, overwhelmed by the intensity of what he was feeling. Gratitude, relief, something deeper and more dangerous that he wasn't ready to name when he opened his eyes. Emma was looking directly at him. She had seen him in the doorway, had felt his presence like a disturbance in the air. But instead of embarrassment or apology, her expression held only gentle understanding. She knew what it meant to him. Hearing that song again, she knew what it cost him to listen, and what it gave him back. Luna, oblivious to the charged moment between the adults, clapped her hands. "Daddy, did you hear? Emma knows Mama's song." Marcus forced himself to step into the room, his movements careful and controlled. "I heard, little star. It sounded beautiful." Emma rose gracefully from the floor, smoothing her skirt. "I should probably start thinking about dinner. What does Luna usually eat?" "Mrs. Patterson typically handles meals," Marcus said, his voice rougher than intended. "I don't mind cooking," Emma said quickly. "I mean, if that's okay. I make a pretty good grilled cheese." Luna bounced on her toes. "With tomato soup? The kind that's really red and warm?" Emma grinned. "Is there any other kind?" Marcus watched this exchange with growing bewilderment. In the span of a single afternoon, this woman had accomplished what months of therapy and careful routine had failed to do. Luna was animated, engaged, hopeful. She was acting like a child again, instead of a small adult carrying the weight of the world. "That would be..." Marcus paused, searching for words that wouldn't reveal too much. "That would be very kind of you." Emma's smile was radiant, perfect. "Luna, want to help me explore the kitchen? I have a feeling it's going to be an adventure." As they headed toward the kitchen, Luna chattering excitedly about her favorite foods, Marcus remained in the living room. He walked to the mantelpiece and picked up the photograph of his wife, studying her face, as if seeing it for the first time. "She's good with her," he said quietly to the image. "You'd like her, Claire. You'd like her very much." For the first time in 2 years, Marcus allowed himself to imagine what it might be like to hear laughter in his home every day. To come downstairs and find warmth instead of careful silence. To watch his daughter grow up with someone who understood that love wasn't about replacing what was lost, but about building something new from the pieces that remained. The sound of Emma's laughter drifted from the kitchen, followed by Luna's delighted squeal. Marcus set the photograph back on the mantelpiece, but this time he didn't hide it behind the orchids. Some things, he was beginning to understand, were meant to be seen. The kitchen had been transformed into something that looked suspiciously like a flower bomb had exploded. Emma stood at the counter, her dark hair escaping from its ponytail, a streak of flour across her cheek. Luna perched on a step-stool beside her, her small arms dusted white to the elbows, giggling as she attempted to flip a grilled cheese sandwich. "Careful now," Emma murmured, her hand hovering near Luna's as the child maneuvered the spatula. "It's all about the wrist action. See." Gentle but confident. The sandwich landed with a satisfying sizzle, perfectly golden brown. Luna's face lit up with triumph. "I did it, Daddy, I did it." Marcus had been watching from the doorway for the past 10 minutes, mesmerized by the easy domesticity of the scene. His pristine kitchen, the one Mrs. Patterson maintained with military precision, had never looked more beautiful than it did, covered in flour and filled with laughter. "I see that," he said, stepping forward. "Very impressive technique." Emma glanced up, her cheeks flushing slightly when she caught his expression. "Sorry about the mess. I got a little carried away." "Don't apologize," Marcus said quietly. "This is what a kitchen should look like." Their eyes met across the chaos, and for a moment, the air between them crackled with something unspoken. Emma's lips parted slightly, as if she was about to say something, but Luna's voice cut through the moment. "Emma showed me how to make..." Soup curls, Luna announced, stirring the pot with intense concentration. You pour the cream in really slow and make circles. See? Marcus moved closer to admire Luna's handiwork, trying to ignore the way his pulse quickened when Emma's shoulder brushed against his. She smelled like vanilla and something warm and sweet that made him want to lean closer. "That's beautiful, little star," he said, his voice slightly hoarse, very professional. Emma ladled the soup into bowls, while Luna carefully arranged the sandwiches on plates. The three of them sat at the kitchen island Marcus had never eaten in the kitchen before, but somehow it felt exactly right. "So," Emma said, cutting Luna's sandwich into triangles, "tell me about school. What's your favorite subject?" Luna's face scrunched thoughtfully. "Art. But reading is good too. Miss Rodriguez lets us pick any book we want during quiet time." "What's your favorite book?" "The Secret Garden," Luna said immediately. "It's about a girl who finds a hidden place where beautiful things can grow, even when everything looks dead." Emma's breath caught. "That's a wonderful book. I love how Mary learns to take care of the garden and how it changes her." "Do you think there are secret gardens in real life?" Luna asked, her eyes wide with possibility. Emma glanced at Marcus, who was watching the exchange with an expression of profound tenderness. "I think there are secret gardens everywhere," she said softly. "Sometimes they're actual gardens. Sometimes they're places in our hearts where we keep the things that matter most." Luna nodded solemnly, as if this made perfect sense. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The only sounds, the gentle clink of spoons against bowls, and the soft tick of the kitchen clock. It was Marcus who broke the silence. "Emma, may I ask you something?" She looked up, sensing the weight in his voice. "Of course. What made you become a teacher?" Emma set down her spoon, considering the question, "I suppose. I wanted to be the person I needed when I was young. Someone who saw me, really saw me, and made me feel like I mattered. And do you feel like you matter?" The question was asked quietly, but it carried an intensity that made Emma's chest tighten. She studied his face, searching for the meaning behind his words. "Most days," she said honestly, "but some days it's hard to remember that the small things we do for each other really make a difference." Marcus's eyes never left her face. "They do," he said firmly, "more than you know." Something in his tone made Emma's heart skip. There was a weight to his words, a conviction that spoke of personal experience. But before she could ask what he meant, Luna yawned hugely, her eyelids growing heavy. "Someone's getting sleepy," Emma observed with a smile. "I'm not tired," Luna protested, even as she swayed slightly on her stool. Marcus reached over and smoothed her hair. "How about a bath and a story? You can show Emma your favorite book. Will you read it?" Luna asked Emma hopefully. "I would love to." An hour later, Emma sat on the edge of Luna's bed, the little girl curled against her side as she read about Mary Lennox and her magical garden. Luna's breathing had grown deep and even, but Emma continued reading, her voice soft and soothing. In the lamplight. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching. Emma's presence had transformed his daughter's room, just as it had every other space she'd entered. The careful order was still there, but now it felt lived in, loved, warm. When Emma finished the chapter, she looked up to find Marcus watching her. She carefully extracted herself from Luna's embrace, tucking the blankets around the sleeping child. "She's beautiful," Emma whispered as they stepped into the hallway. "She is," Marcus agreed. "She's the best thing I've ever done." They walked downstairs together, the house settling into evening quiet around them. Marcus led her to the living room, where a fire crackled in the hearth. Emma settled into one of the armchairs, her hands folded in her lap. "Thank you," Marcus said suddenly, "for today, for everything." Emma tilted her head. I didn't do anything special. I just spent time with her. That's exactly what made it special. Marcus sat across from her, leaning forward. Luna hasn't laughed like that since. He paused, struggling with the words. Since her mother died. Emma's heart clenched. I'm sorry. I saw the photograph. She was beautiful. She was everything, Marcus said quietly. Claire was light and warmth and joy. When she died, it felt like the sun went out. For both of us. Emma watched him carefully, seeing the pain that still lived in the lines around his eyes. The way his shoulders carried the weight of grief. How long has it been? She asked gently. 2 years. Cancer. We fought it for a year. But, ... Double quotes. He shrugged helplessly. Luna was so young, she didn't understand why Mama was too tired to play, why she was sad all the time. After Claire died, Luna just ... shut down. She was polite, well-behaved, but it was like she was afraid to feel anything too much. Emma's throat tightened. That's a heavy burden for such a small person. I tried everything. Therapy, art classes, music lessons, nothing worked. She was just ... existing. Going through the motions. Marcus looked up, his eyes intense. But today, watching her with you, she was alive again, really alive. The weight of his words settled between them. Emma felt the enormous responsibility of what he was telling her, and something else, a deep, aching recognition of their shared experience of loss. Children are resilient, she said softly. But they need to feel safe, to be vulnerable. Safe. To laugh and cry and make mistakes. She felt safe with you, Marcus said. Within hours, she felt safe with you. Emma met his gaze, seeing something there that made her pulse quicken. Gratitude, yes, but something deeper. Something that spoke of possibility and hope and the dangerous territory of letting someone matter. I should go, she said suddenly. Standing up, it's getting late, and I'm sure you have work to do. Marcus rose as well, his expression shifting to something like panic. Will you ... That is, Sarah is still sick, isn't she? Emma nodded, understanding the unspoken question. Can stay tomorrow, if you need me. Relief flooded his features. I do need you, we both do. The admission hung in the air between them, charged with meaning, neither of them was quite ready to acknowledge. Emma gathered her things, hyper-aware of Marcus's presence as he walked her to the door. Emma, he said, as she reached for her coat. Yes, I meant what I said. About the small things mattering. What you did today, ... It mattered, more than you know. She smiled, her heart doing strange things in her chest. I'll see you tomorrow, Marcus. Tomorrow, he agreed, and watched from the doorway as she walked to her car. Her figure gradually disappearing into the darkness inside. The house felt different, warmer, alive. For the first time in 2 years, Marcus found himself looking forward to morning. The next 3 days passed in a blur of laughter and discovery. Emma arrived each morning to find Luna waiting by the window, her face lighting up the moment she spotted the familiar figure walking up the path. They fell into an easy rhythm breakfast together, activities in the garden, quiet time with books, cooking experiments that left the kitchen looking like a tornado had passed through. Marcus found himself making excuses to work from home, to catch glimpses of Emma and Luna together. He watched Emma teach Luna to braid friendship bracelets, their heads bent together over colorful threads. He observed from his office window as they built a fort out of blankets in the garden, their voices carrying on the afternoon breeze. Each day Luna grew more vibrant, more herself. She told jokes that made Emma laugh, until tears streamed down her cheeks. She shared stories about her mother with the kind of openness that spoke of healing. She began to sing again, not just lullabies, but silly songs that she made up on the spot, and Marcus began to remember what it felt like to come home to warmth instead of careful silence. It was on Thursday evening, as Emma was packing up to leave, that Luna made her request. "Can Emma stay for dinner tomorrow?" she asked, looking between the two adults with hopeful eyes. A real dinner, not just sandwiches. Marcus glanced at Emma, who seemed to be considering the invitation carefully. "I wouldn't want to intrude," she said softly. "You wouldn't be intruding," Marcus said quickly. "If you'd like to, I mean, I could cook. I'm not terrible at it." Emma's smile was radiant. "I'd love to." Friday evening found them in the dining room, a space that had been reserved for formal occasions and business dinners. Emma had insisted on helping with the preparations, and together they had transformed the austere room into something warm and welcoming. Candles flickered on the table, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The scent of roasted chicken and herbs filled the air. Luna had insisted on making place cards, decorating each one with elaborate drawings. Marcus's card featured a stick figure in a suit, holding what appeared to be a computer. Emma's showed a woman with flowing hair surrounded by hearts and stars. "This is beautiful, Luna," Emma said, examining her place card. "Is this supposed to be me?" "You're the sunshine lady," Luna explained matter-of-factly, "so you need stars and hearts, and things that sparkle." Marcus caught Emma's eye across the table, and something passed between them, a moment of shared understanding, of recognition that this felt like something more than dinner. It felt like family. After Luna had been tucked into bed, Emma and Marcus found themselves alone in the living room again. The fire crackled softly, casting warm light across the room. Emma had settled into what was becoming her usual chair, her legs tucked beneath her. "This week has been ... Marcus began, then stopped, struggling to find words adequate to what he was feeling. "Different," Emma finished softly. "Good, different. Yes, good, different." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Marcus spoke. "Emma, I need to tell you something." Something in his tone made her look up sharply. "Okay." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. 2 years ago, Luna's school had a program where education students would come in to help with activities. Claire was already very sick then, and Luna was struggling. She would cry during quiet time, refuse to participate in group activities. Emma's heart began to race, though she wasn't sure why. One day, there was a presentation. Something about courage and kindness. Luna came home different that day. She was ... lighter. She had this note tucked into her backpack. Marcus stood and walked to a drawer in the side table. He pulled out a small piece of paper, worn soft from handling, and handed it to Emma. Her breath caught as she recognized her own handwriting. The note was simple, written in the bright, encouraging tone she used with all her students. "Dear Luna, you are braver than you believe, and stronger than you know. Your mama's love lives in your heart always. Remember that you are sunshine, even on cloudy days. Love, Miss Chen." Emma's hands trembled as she held the note. "I remember," she whispered. "There was a little girl who was so sad. She wouldn't join the other children, wouldn't sing along. I just ... I wanted her to know that someone saw her." "You did more than see her," Marcus said quietly. "You saved her. There's a video from that day. Would you like to see it?" Emma nodded, though her heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. Marcus inserted the flash drive into his laptop and turned the screen toward her. The video was shaky, clearly taken by a parent. But Emma could see herself clearly younger, her hair shorter, her face bright with the enthusiasm of a new teacher. She was kneeling beside a small girl with honey-colored eyes, both of them singing softly. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine, ... Emma's eyes filled with tears as she watched her younger self wrap her arms around the grieving child. As she watched Luna's face transform from despair to something like hope. After that day, Luna started healing. Marcus continued. She would ask me to play that song, to read her the note you wrote. She called you her sunshine teacher, and she never forgot you. Emma looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. I had no idea. I was only there for a few weeks, and then I graduated. And started my permanent position. I never knew. I looked for you, Marcus said softly. I hired investigators, followed every lead. I needed to thank you, to tell you what you had done for us. But Emma Chen is a common name, and you had already moved on. So when I showed up at your door, I knew immediately. Your face, your voice, the way you looked at Luna. You were her sunshine teacher, and somehow, miraculously, you had come back to us. Emma stared at him, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was telling her. That's why you hired me. Not because you needed a nanny, but because you had already given my daughter the most precious gift imaginable. You had given her hope. Marcus moved closer, his eyes intense. But Emma, what started as gratitude has become something else entirely. Emma's breath caught. Marcus. These past few days, watching you with Luna, seeing the way you've brought light back into this house, I've fallen in love with you. Not just with what you did for Luna, but with who you are. Your kindness, your strength, the way you make everything better just by being present. Emma's heart was racing so fast she thought it might burst. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay, Marcus said urgently. Not as a nanny, not as a temporary solution, but as part of our family. Say you'll let us love you the way you deserve to be loved. Emma really looked at him and saw not just the wealthy businessman or the grieving widower, but a man who had spent 2 years searching for the woman who had shown his daughter kindness in her darkest hour. A man who had opened his carefully guarded heart and was offering it to her completely. I love you too, she whispered, the words slipping out before she could stop them. I love both of you. This week has been. It's been like finding a family I didn't know I was looking for. Marcus's face transformed, hope blazing in his eyes. Then, stay. Please, stay and let us build something beautiful together. Emma stood up, moving toward him. Yes, she said simply. Yes, I'll stay. Marcus reached for her then, his hands framing her face as he leaned down to kiss her. It was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as Emma melted into his embrace. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathless. Daddy, Emma. They turned to find Luna standing at the bottom of the stairs, her hair tousled from sleep, her favorite stuffed elephant clutched in her arms. Did I hear right? Luna asked, her voice small but hopeful. Are you staying? For real this time? Emma knelt down, opening her arms. Luna ran to her, throwing herself into Emma's embrace with the absolute trust of a child who had found her safe harbor. I'm staying, sweetheart, Emma whispered into Luna's hair. If you'll have me, I'm staying forever. Luna pulled back to look at her, those honey-colored eyes bright with tears of joy. Does this mean you'll be my new mama? Emma glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. It means I'll love you like my own daughter, Emma said carefully. And maybe someday, if you want, we can make it official. Luna's smile could have lit up the entire city. I want that. I want that so much. Marcus joined them then, wrapping his arms around both of them. And for the first time in 2 years, his house felt like a home again. They stood there in the firelight. Three people who had found each other against all odds, who had learned that sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones built not from blood, but from choice, from love, from the simple act of showing up for each other when it matters most. Emma thought of the note she had written so long ago, of the young teacher who had just wanted to help a sad little girl feel less alone. She could never have imagined that those few words of encouragement would lead her here. To this moment, to this love that felt like coming home. Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the world in pristine white. But inside the Blackwood house, three hearts beat in perfect synchrony, creating a warmth that no winter could touch. The sunshine teacher had found her way home at last. 6 months later, Emma stood in the same garden where she had first heard Luna laugh, watching her daughter because that's what Luna was now. In every way that mattered, chase butterflies among the flowers they had planted together. The garden was no longer pristine and perfect. It was alive, bursting with color and the kind of beautiful chaos that came from little hands helping with the planting. Marcus appeared beside her, slipping his arms around her waist from behind. "Penny, for your thoughts," he murmured against her ear. Emma leaned back into his warmth, her hands covering his. "I was thinking about how strange life is. How a single moment can change everything." "Which moment?" Marcus asked, though his voice suggested he already knew. "The moment I decided to say yes when Sarah called. The moment I walked through your front door. The moment I wrote that note to a little girl I thought I'd never see again." Marcus pressed a kiss to her temple. "I prefer to think it wasn't chance. I think some people are meant to find each other, even when the path seems impossible." Luna's delighted squeal drew their attention back to the garden. She had successfully caught a butterfly, which sat calmly on her outstretched finger, as if it understood the magic of the moment. "Look," Luna called out, her face radiant with joy. "It's not scared of me." Emma's eyes filled with tears, happy tears, this time. "That's because you have gentle hands and a gentle heart," she called back. "Beautiful things can sense that." The butterfly took flight, circling Luna once before disappearing into the blue sky. Luna watched it go with the serene acceptance of a child who had learned that love doesn't always leave, that sometimes it just transforms into something even more beautiful. "I have something for you," Marcus said quietly. Reaching into his pocket, Emma turned in his arms, her breath catching as he dropped to one knee in the garden they had created together. In front of the daughter they both adored. The ring was simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the afternoon light and threw rainbows across the grass. But it was the look in Marcus's eyes that took Emma's breath away. The absolute certainty of a man who had found his missing piece. "Emma Chen," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "You walked into our lives like sunshine after the longest winter. You gave my daughter back her smile, and you gave me back my heart. Will you marry us? Will you let us love you for the rest of our lives?" Emma's answer was lost in her tears, but Luna had no such problem with speech. "Say yes," the little girl shouted, abandoning her butterfly hunt to run toward them. "Say yes, say yes, say yes." Emma laughed through her tears, looking down at the man who had become her whole world. At the child who had taught her that love multiplies rather than divides. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, her voice carrying across the garden like a song, "Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes." Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger with hands that trembled slightly, then stood to kiss her as Luna danced around them, her laughter mixing with the sound of wind chimes and distant church bells. When they finally broke apart, Emma knelt down to Luna's level. "What do you think, sweetheart? Ready to be a family, officially?" Luna threw her arms around Emma's neck with the fierce intensity of a child who had learned not to take love for granted. "I've been ready since the first day you sang to me," she whispered. "My sunshine, Mama." Emma held her daughter close, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo and summer grass, feeling Marcus's hand warm and steady on her shoulder. This was what coming home felt like. Not a place, but a feeling. Not perfection, but love in all its messy, beautiful, life-changing glory. The note she had written years ago had been about courage and strength and love that never dies. She had meant it for a grieving child, but perhaps she had been writing it for herself, too. Perhaps she had been promising her future self that someday, somewhere, she would find her own secret garden where beautiful things could grow. As the three of them walked back toward the house, Luna skipping between them, their hands linked like an unbreakable chain, Emma realized that the most extraordinary love stories aren't the ones that begin with fireworks and grand gestures. They're the ones that begin with kindness, with showing up, with choosing to see the light in someone else's darkness and deciding to stay. The sunshine teacher had become a mother, a wife, a keeper of hearts. And in the end, that was the most beautiful story of all. The golden hour light streamed through the windows of what was no longer the Blackwood house, but the Blackwood Chen home, where laughter lived in every corner and love had learned to bloom again, where a woman who had lost her mother had found her daughter, where a man who had forgotten how to hope had remembered how to dream, where three hearts had discovered that the most powerful magic in the world is the simple decision to love, to stay, to build something beautiful from the broken pieces of yesterday. Stories that breathe.